as we go through this video and with the examples I'm going to give you, you'll see why not only are they different jobs, but they're totally different ways of thinking about things. So, sorry to interrupt myself and you and I on this adventure to learn something new, but I just needed to stop us for a second and say, if you love this content and if you found it helpful, I have an entire collection of awesome stuff that if you stick around to the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how to gain access to that. It's basically just stuff I can't share on YouTube. There's a ton of free asset downloads as well as some thought exercises to help you optimize your Salesforce CRM. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So welcome back to another episode of Sales to the Force. My name is Alyssa Schaefer, and if you're new here, welcome. This channel is for both Salesforce consultants and also people who want to understand if working with a Salesforce consultant is right for them or right for their business, right? You want to understand what the heck a Salesforce consultant even does and why it is worth the amount of money that they're going to charge you per hour, because it's a pretty penny. Okay, so in today's video, I also want to put my disclaimer in here, always have to, that I am a senior Salesforce consultant and I do work for a company, but this channel is separate from my job in an effort for me to I want to bridge the gap between what consultants know and what consultants do with the people who need consulting, because I find more often than not that people fundamentally just don't even understand what a Salesforce consultant does. Like they actually don't get it. They think like, oh, you're just Salesforce help in a real body. Like, no, actually, it's so much bigger than that. And that is why in today's video, I'm going to define the difference between a Salesforce system administrator and a Salesforce consultant. Because believe it or not, there's a really big difference. Now, that does not mean that a consultant is not certified as a Salesforce system administrator, but as we go through this video and with the examples I'm going to give you, you'll see why not only are they different jobs, but they're totally different ways of thinking about things. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. I want to first start out by identifying the most significant difference between a Salesforce system administrator and a Salesforce consultant is a system administrator is looking through a very finite lens. So let's put it this way. A system administrator is looking almost through a microscope, like at an ant, versus a person who is a consultant is zoomed out, looking at that person, looking at the microscope, looking at the ant, right? So the picture, you still see all the other stuff, but you're way zoomed out. So you understand the impact that what you're looking at, how it applies to the whole picture, instead of just looking at the microscope, looking at the one ant, having that assessment of like a really, really focused lens. Because the example I'm going to give you is if you as a system administrator, and this is like a real life example. So as a system administrator, if somebody asks you like, oh, okay, so can you add a new pick list value? Oh, can you update one of my pick list values? So actually, I'll just tell you the story. So I one time had a client come to me, and for the record, this is how consultants are made. You know, I think that in life, it's a series of problems you've confronted and found the solution for, which makes you smarter and move more effectively, right? So, I'm just going to explain the ramifications of looking through a system administrator lens in a consulting scenario. So, one time I had a client come to me and they were very clear. They were like, we need new pick list values on this pick list, and I need you to update this pick list value, that pick list value, and the other pick list value. So, being a good system administrator, I just followed those instructions. It's what they said they needed, and that's what I did. Mission accomplished. Yeah, no. So So he comes back and he's like, oh my God, you broke everything. Like, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, you asked me to change some pick list values. Like, what are you even talking about? And as it turns out, not only, which for the record, this org was not necessarily built through best practice, but not only did I change values on that pick list, but that pick list connected to 3 other pick lists with the same value. For the record, use a global pick list if you're going to have multiple pick lists on different objects. Side note. But the point is that by changing the pick list values on the one pick list, not only did it break the connection between all the other pick lists, but there was a ton of automation also attached to the values on that pick list. So, another note on if you're a system administrator, always keep notes on what you do, because in case you have to undo it, then you can. But long story short, I undid it, and then I noticed what this person who, like, this is a person in the business, right? This is a person who just came to me and said, hey, I need your help doing this. So me being a support person, I just did it. But this is where the power of a consultant and the wisdom of a consultant comes into play. Because guess what? In this scenario, person in the business plus system administrator equals chaos. What a consultant would have done in that scenario is, instead of listening, honestly, well, you would have listened to the client say what they needed. You would have. You also, though, would have paused them right when they were done. You would have said, excellent, I hear you. We need to update pick list values. However, now we need to figure out what that pick list is attached to. Is that pick list attached to an automation? Is that pick list attached to a report or a dashboard or something like that? Meaning, when you change those pick list values, what else is going to be changed? And so in this particular circumstance, this particular pick list happened to be how everything functioned. He picked the wrong pick list to pick. I mean, obviously it's why he needed it updated, but man alive. So in that circumstance, looking through the microscope at the ant burned it. You know, like the whole thing where, like, if you like put a microscope on an ant and the sun, it like burns the ant. The ant was set on fire because a system administrator is not going to zoom out and think, okay, so yes, you need pick list values, but how does that impact the whole world? Not just the one ant under the microscope. If you set that ant on fire, does that then start a fire around it? Like, and that was exactly what happened in my circumstance. And you know something funny? All I did was follow the request to a T of what the client asked me to do. And so this is painting the illustrious picture of what a system administrator does versus what a consultant does, and the power of having a consultant in your corner, not only for the person requesting the work, but the person executing the work. And just that little bit of extra, like, let's make sure that by doing this one simple thing, because I promise you, it only took me 10 minutes to actually do that task, but based on what happened afterward, it was completely avoidable if somebody from a consultant role had just said, hey, by the way, just so you know, that pick list is attached to how this fundamentally works. By changing pick list values, you will break all of this stuff over here. And it would have saved not only that client and myself a ton of time, but, and also, okay, caveat here, every single experience is a learning experience. And I will say, without that experience, I wouldn't be the consultant that I am today. So what I am trying to paint here is the picture and the image of what a system administrator does. A system administrator can create fields, remove fields, update fields, change page layouts, change, like they could even be building automations and doing all kinds of other stuff. However, what a consultant does is a consultant takes all those individual tasks, or from a client side, all those individual requests, and makes sure that whatever the zoomed out picture is, not only takes those into account, but that those fit into the big picture, that those help with the big picture, those support the big picture. And if you don't look at it through both lenses, like, you're not going to come up with the best solution. So, anyway, long story short, I was able to fix everything that this client asked me to do because I was just following instructions. And for those of you out there that are system administrators and you're working with clients and you are just following their instructions and then that creates a huge mess, obviously the next thing you can't do is be like, well, you told me to do it. Like, honestly, we're supposed to be the ones that are smart enough to know not to do that. So, lesson learned. Make sure you do things so that they can be undone. If you ever come across something that cannot be undone, like deleting stuff, you must double check, triple check, quadruple check the next day, like check. That's 100% the answer that somebody needs. Because when you do things for a client, even if they ask you to do them that cannot be undone, that's when you get into real trouble. Because pointing the finger doesn't solve the problem, it creates more problems. So anyway, hopefully that lesson also serves some of you out there. Pick list values, be very careful. But more than that, you need to be able to see things from a today-tomorrow circumstance and zoom out and understand how that actually affects the whole world, because otherwise you'll get yourself into a situation, kind of like I did, where all of a sudden you're like, whoa, whoopsies. And, I'm not saying it wasn't my fault. I definitely took the action. However, at the end of the day, I was sincerely just following instructions from the client, thinking that I was helping. And so that, my friends, is the difference between a system administrator and a consultant. And it is the lens by which you look through things. And I actually think that both visions are what create the ultimate solution. You do need somebody with the business context to be able to say, like, okay, we need this, we need that, this is we need it. And if that means that there's something additional that needs to be added, if there's something that needs to be changed or manipulated to actually affect the big picture, that's where then the consultant comes into play and says, hey, by the way, if you update those pick list values, that's going to break the whole world. So what should we do? Like, I'm not saying I have a solution right now. I'm just saying that what a consultant's going to do is ask you the right questions to then say, okay, if what we really need is an updated blank, then we must take this, and this into account and, and account for that. But you then are one step closer to actually creating a solution. Now, one thing I will say, because I brought up this particular example, is another video that I'll link to called Foundational Scalability. Now, I defined this term in that video, so I'm not gonna deep dive into it. However, one of the concepts that I describe in that video is building things with the end in mind. And that also relates directly back to this video, where we're talking about the difference between how a system administrator goes about their day and how a consultant would go about their day. And it's ultimately two very different paths. One is riding a rocket and the other one's driving a car. But with the foundational scalability video, you will learn the key aspects to how to build stuff with the end in mind, meaning that, okay, pick list values are what needs to be changed. But okay, so rewind, right? Rewind before I never would have been put in that situation if the solution that had been designed for that workflow in its entirety didn't depend on the fact that in order for somebody to properly update this, they would have had to update 4 different pick lists and an automation. Like, I know for a fact, like, this is, I'm not going to define what the correct answer would have been, but I will tell you that from the initial design phase, if that person who designed it had thought about, okay, so I've created this solution, they need this, this, and this, and simply ask themselves, well, what about if they need to add a new pick list value? So that simple question, or what happens if they want to remove a pick list value, because that also broke the world too. They asked me to update stuff, and they asked me to change a whole bunch. They asked me to remove some too. This like set the world on fire. That ant was like not just like burning, it was like it blew up, and I was just like, whoa. So it gave me this wonderful life lesson as being a Salesforce consultant, one step closer to becoming a senior Salesforce consultant, but looking through both lenses, not only like the thought process of a consultant and how they would have approached that exact same request, but also thinking back to, okay, how would I have maybe changed even the input on the front side of this to help avoid some unsuspecting person like me from really stepping in it later. And that would have been really building that solution with the end in mind. And that's where the foundational scalability video comes into play. So check that out if you haven't already. But welcome back if you are returning, and welcome for the first time if you're new. This channel is to help both Salesforce consultants and the Salesforce consulted understand a little bit more about this industry, how it works, and the best way to go about getting the right answer the first time. Because as I say in my other videos, I was a bartender for a long time, and not all bartenders are created equal, so why would you assume that Salesforce consultants are? So with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I am looking forward to chatting with you on the next one and helping you guys get your Salesforce in a place where your CRM works for you and you don't work for it. All right, have a great rest of your day, and if you like this video, there's a big button with a thumbs up down there, and if you want more Salesforce content like this, you gotta turn on notifications. It's the only way that YouTube's is gonna tell you if I post another one of these bad boys. All right, have a good day. Hey there, thanks again for watching and joining me on my mission to create some blatantly honest Salesforce consulting content. I'm making this not only for aspiring Salesforce consultants that want to learn what it's like, but also somebody shopping around for a Salesforce consultant. If you want to know what to look for, then you can't miss out on these videos. And if you're also in the boat where you're like, what would it even be like to work with a Salesforce consultant? What could they even provide me? Then all of these videos are for you. And there are a ton of free videos on YouTube. But before you sign up to pay a consultant $30 to $100K to help you along your Salesforce journey, I highly recommend that you gain access to this free Salesforce Captain membership site so that you can be empowered with some information before you're put in that really tough decision that you're going to have to make. As promised, here are the instructions for how you gain access to this free site. I also would like to put in a disclaimer side note that because of the nature of email marketing nowadays, I've started to detest email. So I can promise you that the email you use to sign up for this membership site will only be used for receipts and also for you to be able to manage access to your membership site, like if you have to change your password or something like that. If you want to be notified about each new video that I post on YouTube, then go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. well, and YouTube will let you know. In this membership site though, there is a way to contact me directly. So the only way to be able to do that is to sign up for a seat in this site. But I have curated some questions. It's a form with some questions on it so that I can get the information I need in order to be able to help someone in this area of expertise. All you have to do is click the link in the description and also in the pinned comments. It is also it's everywhere. I'm not trying to hide it from you. So all you have to do is click that link, put in your preferred email. As stated, I promise that is your email for your stuff. I do not want to talk to you over email, but you can access me in this free membership site, and I'm able to share stuff in this site that I can't share on YouTube. For instance, like the no BS guide to a Salesforce CRM, or the mini course on how to think about automations, understanding automations, and other things along the lines of learning how to be a great system administrator, and not only that, but really how to get the bang for your buck with working with a Salesforce consultant, because I know I don't come cheap. So I would much rather help you know exactly what you need before I am tasked with the assignment of figuring it out. So I really enjoyed making all of these videos for you guys, and I hope that you've got some great value out of it. And I can't wait to see you in the Salesforce Captain membership site. See you there.